Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury.
And I'm Nick Amaro.
And welcome to Ask the Tech Coach, episode number 31. Tonight, we're talking all about your EdTech Integration Plan. Nick, how are you today? It is the day before January 1st.
I'm good. With the holiday season wrapping up and time to get back into the swing of things with work. So, just trying to get back into it and recuperate the energy that I need to finish out the year.
I totally agree. I had a great vacation, great to spend some time with the kids, but looking forward to getting back to our teachers. And that brings us to all the great things that are happening here on TeacherCast and on the Ask the Tech Coach .com network there. Of course, we're looking forward to starting up our mastermind. And if you are checking out this show on Monday, December 31st, this is the last day that you guys can take advantage of our $100 coupon by visiting teachercast.net/mastermind and using the coupon code TeacherCast TC100. Using the coupon code TC100. Nick, remind everybody what's going on for our mastermind. We've got a great program for everybody.
We do, and a lot of updating, right, Jeff? So we've got a lot that we have planned and hoping that we continue to refresh the mastermind a little bit and offer even a little bit more. So, again, you're going to get some of the things that we've had from the last time, the exclusive podcasts and lesson plans. But you're also going to get, a full-blown LMS course that we have designed. We added another course to it now. We're also going to be having a tech integration course. That's tech integration plan course on how to kind of put that together for your district. That's going to be included. And then you're going to get your twice monthly video scheduled meetings with us over the course of the mastermind meeting.
Everybody says, what will we be able to do, right? And here's the deal. At the end of this, you guys are going to be able to use a learning management system in your school. Now, the question, of course, then, Nick, is, which learning management system? And it isn't that. That's not the question that we're here to answer. It's sometimes we don't have the opportunity to choose which LMS we use. And that's exactly where we've designed this course. It doesn't matter what you're using, Schoology, Canvas, Google Classroom, Apple Classroom, anything like that. We are here to help you guys learn how to be a tech coach in a school district that has that learning management system to help you make the most out of your LMS and get your teachers creating amazing digital lessons. And of course, as Nick alluded to, you're also going to be able to create and implement an EdTech Integration Plan. teachercast.net/mastermind. Use that coupon code TC100 today. That coupon code is going away at the stroke of midnight on December 31st. Now, Nick, we've been talking for the last couple months about this whole concept of an EdTech Integration Plan, and that brings us to our Tech Coach Tip of the Week. Nick, what is our Tech Coach Tip of the Week?
Sure. So the Tech Coach Tip is that it's just as important for school districts to create and maintain an updated technology plan that focuses on the hardware and applications, as it is equally as important for districts to create and maintain the EdTech Integration Plan. And that describes what should be happening in the classroom. So I think there's a piece that, this then becomes the baseline and benchmark for the work that happens in the lives of the tech coaches, and then what's going on in those classrooms.
And so the EdTech Integration Plan, the question really comes down to what is it? We all have tech integration plans, right? Like that's what our tech director at our school puts together. And, essentially the tech integration plan is, what am I buying? Where am I putting it? How long are these devices going to be in use? Who's using them, right? Like that, it's all the hardware applications. It's the tech director stuff. Usually tech coaches get involved. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But today we're going to be focusing on really the document that should come out of that. Or I don't know, Nick, should it be the document that comes before that, right? What is the difference between a tech integration plan and an EdTech integration plan?
Yeah, so and I think you were spot on with your first definition there. I think a lot of times we misunderstand and look at the tech plan as an ed tech plan, and you're right. It's usually the hardware piece. Some districts have those 2020 vision or the 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plans where what's going to happen in those years, and usually that's all wrapped around the hardware itself. So when are we going to refresh devices? when are we rolling out to one-to-one in various schools, what new programs or devices, how are we going to update Wi-Fi and all of that stuff. But the EdTech plan is more so, what do the staff and the teachers need to know? What tools and apps and programs are students using in the classroom that then the rest of the staff need to be able to understand, implement, and use along the way. And this is everything that stems down, depending on tech coaches. I know for you and I, Jeff, we work with everyone, and that includes, central office staff and main office secretaries and whatnot, or guidance counselors and nurses. So what are the programs that they're using? Because we as tech coaches have to be fluent in all of those things. But also then, how do we kind of get them up to date and be able to work with them along the way? So the EdTech plan now is everything that culminates us and the PD that we're going to offer along that journey.
And you said the word, it's the how, right? It's not the what.
Right.
It's the how. So if we're looking at this, your tech plan is the devices. This is, okay, what are those devices going to be doing in the classroom? How are the lessons going to be there? And I think the most important thing, Nick, it's how are the teachers. You know what? I'm going to even stop there. Let's not say teachers. Let's say staff members. Because as you said, this is everybody. Administrators, superintendent on down. How are they going to be trained to do this, to do the activities they need for their job? Doesn't matter if they're sitting at a desk, sitting at a classroom, sitting in an office. Doesn't matter. The EdTech Integration Plan really is your professional development declaration to your school district and to your community. It is technology driven, right? Or is it curricular driven, or is it something different, Nick? What do you think? What actually drives this plan that we're talking about today?
Yeah, I think there are a couple pieces that drive it. I think you're right. I think technology is going to drive it, depending on what is available to students and staff, and what hardware pieces and applications that they have that they're able to use in their districts. That's going to drive what's the outcome is. Also, you're right, curriculum, because what's the approach? What are your district or building initiatives and goals? And that's usually curriculum driven. So those things are going to dictate what's going to come out of your technology plan or your ed tech plan. And then, Jeff, as you were just alluded to, when we get back to the how in the classroom and everything that stems from that, then it's the student piece as well, right? So I think that's a big outcome, is what are they going to be able to do, and what tools are they going to be able to use along the way to be able to create whatever is the outcome or the goal at the end.
Now, if you're interested in learning more about this topic, we of course want you to reach out to us on Twitter, by email. You can find us on Twitter at AskTheTechCoach. And of course, if you go over to AskTheTechCoach.com, we're going to be talking about this all month. We're going to be blogging about it, doing extra videos on it, all the different components. And Nick, we've even got a workshop that we've put together to take school districts through all the steps to create their perfect EdTech integration plan.
Yeah, and I think this is an exciting opportunity for us, Jeff, because there's a lot of work, like you said, with the mastermind, and to be able to throw this in and offer this as another piece. Again, as we continue to refresh and update and offer a little bit more each time. But this is for those that maybe just aren't going to join the mastermind, but you're really interested in designing and developing an ed tech integration plan for your district. Maybe it's a goal, something that your district has decided to put together. So we're offering an opportunity to take an online course that's going to go through all of the stages, from the background to, here's everything at the end that you've compiled, and surveys and different things, in order to really get and build an effective ed tech integration plan.
So if you're looking for more information about all that stuff, check us out. You can, of course, leave us a voicemail over at teachercast.net/voicemail, or email us at feedback@teachercast.net. We would love to work with you in your school district to create an amazing EdTech integration plan. Because after all, this is, Nick, the document that focuses what tech coaches do, right? Without this document, what is the point of having a position that focuses on professional learning?
Absolutely. And I think that's the piece. So, Jeff, if we're going to start looking at it, what are the stages leading up? And we're trying to kind of give people, we'll say a broad overview. What do you need to do before creating the plan itself? Like, what are those steps that we have to take in order to kind of compile and curate our resources or things beforehand?
And so when we're looking at this, Nick, it is important that the first thing that we have is administration buying in to your plan, right? Like you have to have somebody that says, this is what we want, this is what we need. Like a tech coach can't just drop a document in front of their superintendent or their administrator and say, this is how we're going to do things. It's got to start with a conversation. What do we want our students to be able to do at the end of the day? That's always the first question. That's always the last question. Even after we're finished this document, is it helping us create, achieve our goal of what do we want our students to be able to do? And then, of course, the second question is, how do we want our teachers to be able to get our students through those goals and objectives? Now, Nick, you have a lot of experience working with administrators, not just in your school district, but really across the state of New Jersey. How important do you feel it is to have that administrative buy-in before even taking that first step?
It's big, because I think one of the faults is going to be to do that work and then get hit with something on the back end that then's like, well, I didn't know about this, or here's an initiative or something that you should have taken, or a focus that you have. So I think being able to be upfront with what are our goals, that you and your administrative team, and that could be from central office, your curriculum director and your superintendent as well. I mean, so when we're talking to administrative, I think directly from the top, what do they want to see with these pieces? And then how are you what's the community buy-in for all stakeholders, really, right? For your district, well, who's everyone that's going to be involved in this? And how are they going to be able to see that this ends up being sought through? So yeah, I think you do have to have that administrative buy-in from the beginning, just so it's and that way, so it's not a shock at the end as well. And you'd hate to do all this work, right, Jeff? And then in the end, be holding it all and saying, okay, great. Do I now have to start all over because, not everything has gone the way that you had planned?
And really, when we're looking at this, the next step involved in this program is finding that essential question, right? It's easy to say we're here for our students. What do we want our students? But really, what are we looking for when we say classroom of the present? I hate the term classroom of the future here, right? But when we're looking at what do we want to see in our classrooms, what is that essential question? We want our students to be able to do this, using this and that. Now, we're going to have a lot of shows coming up here in the future where we talk about essential questions and basically how to formulate, really the job description of a tech coach. I'm looking forward to getting into that later in January and February. But when we're looking at this, it comes down to, how is professional learning going to be produced? Is it going to be produced in just on Monday afternoon faculty meetings? Is it going to be produced twice a year during full day PD sessions? Is it going to be produced in July after everybody goes away when teachers are doing PD, or September when everybody's in for PD? Nick, you've got a professional learning plan in your district that says that you get a chance to do, after school programs, lunch and learns during the day. Talk to us a little bit about how your EdTech plan has helped you structure your daily activities.
Yeah, and this is great timing because my curriculum director and I sat down not too long ago, and we were actually talking about how our PD EdTech Integration Plan / PD handbook, we'll kind of call it. It's all those pieces, but it really is everything in an EdTech Integration Plan, and how we need to kind of go back through it, and we want to update some things. But you're right. One of the pieces is in the roadmap for, that we're going to talk about as the roadmap for success. And we definitely cover a lot of this, Jeff, right? I mean, this is one of the pieces in the course, and hopefully we're going to talk about with the mastermind group. So this is one of the things we're doing in the mastermind group, Jeff, that's also going to that talk about the roadmap for success and what kind of is needed as far as the PD side. And with that, that's going to be, you're right, everything that I kind of do, and that culminates from one-to-one workshops and lunch and learns and after-school workshops to even all of my online modules. And the goal is, how does that link up to our district initiatives, and how does that link up to the apps and tools that teachers are using in their classrooms, and then build in the choice and everything for the PD side.
Now, at the end of this, we are really looking at putting together a document, a rather detailed document, but in that document is going to have, your action plan, your plan of attack. How are you going to be putting things together? And I think one of the most important aspects of that is the staff survey, right? Getting an idea of what the staff thinks the classroom should be, right? Because number one, Nick, you always want to get community buy-in from your teachers before you just slap a procedure down and say, we are making you do all this professional development. That doesn't work. You never want to do that. But I always find that one of the things, and I think it's important to do this early on, sending out a simple survey to your staff members to say, what do you want to learn? What do you feel professional development should be? How do you want to see, your learning be? Do you guys want to have, every Monday the tech coach comes in and does a song and dance? Do you want to have, digital badging? Do you want to have online? How do you guys see yourselves learning? What works for the community? Nick, I think that's one of the most important things that you can do while creating a plan for professional learning.
Absolutely, and it's just part of that thing. Once you give, just like working with students, when you give opportunity and choice, the buy-in then is a lot stronger because there's a sense of ownership, and you've sort of built it now organically through your district and your school. So any chance that you have to kind of do that and get that buy-in beforehand is going to help you out twofold, sort of on the back end when you go to kind of implement all these things and do it, because now you can kind of say, look, I'm giving you exactly what you've asked for. I've reached out, I surveyed, I varied the different opportunities, and now here we go. Let's run with it. So Jeff, we're looking at the plan itself, right? Yeah. When we're going to look into that stuff, how long do you think? Because I think this is a question that's going to come up, and I don't know if there's any one straight answer for this, but how long do you think something like this is going to take in order to create?
It's a tough question, right? Many tech coaches are brought into a position and they're told to go make their position. And it's hard to say what your position is going to be. Even if you're given an open book and saying, what do? You got to start at that district level. Many school districts have what might be commonly referred to as a strategic plan, right? And then in that strategic plan is usually, what do we see as our, how do we define our district to our community? And from there, somewhere in there is the word curriculum. Somewhere in there is the word professional learning. Somewhere in there has to be the word student. It's got to start from there, right? Once your district declares, this is who we are and this is what we want to be in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, then you can start to pull out those key words and say, look, we are formulating a plan for professional learning based on that document. So I'll give you 2 answers here, Nick. This could be something that might take a half a year to put together. This could be something that might take a full year together, or this could be something that might take multiple years if your district hasn't gone through that. I think a great time to look into doing this is while your district is creating their next 3 to 5 year district strategic plan. Or if not, as soon as they sign that document and they declare to the world who they are, that's when you start to formulate, okay, now that the district has said we are this and we want to be this later, your EdTech integration plan is really, how do we get there? How's the professional learning going to be? How are we going to make sure that our students are going to be what their district has declared themselves it's going to be? So it's not something to be taken lightly, Nick, and it's certainly not something that's an overnight sensation. But you can certainly, do this a little bit. We were talking about the survey. The survey can be a simple Google form that everybody takes on a Monday. However, as a tech coach, we're constantly talking to teachers. There's your surveys. Hey, Nick, what do you want to see in PD? A simple conversation is sometimes even better than a cold Google form.
Yeah, and Jeff, not to throw sort of a kind of a curveball in here, but thinking about the EdTech integration plan and just thinking about, okay, what might some of the gripes be kind of ahead of time. And that's why I think the question of how long do you think this is going to take to create? One of the things I always think about when I think of the EdTech integration plan, especially now with so much going on in the Future Ready instance, is districts going through the Future Ready plan. And the first question always is, okay, what are we going to get out of it? And how much paperwork is this going to take? Because I feel like that's one of the pieces that holds a lot of districts back to wanting to take part in that. What can we say is the value in putting together an effective, well thought out, and this could be a big plan, a well thought out EdTech integration plan? What do you think is the value? What can we put on that to say, what is this ultimately going to do for us in the end?
The value is that now you have that plan, and I'm a firm believer that if you write it down, you've kind of declared it. So now you have to go live by it. And if you
Right.
have a tech coach that doesn't have a plan, then you have a tech coach that doesn't have a plan, right? You might say you
Right.
need to go coach and you need to say you need to go give PD, but why are we giving that PD? What are we giving that PD on? Are you leaving it up to the tech coach every week to create random acts of professional learning and professional workshops? Or is there a roadmap from which that tech coach is pulling their ideas? So one of the things that we talk about is to really come up with a document that says, what do our staff members need to know? And that's a vital thing. As a teacher, you need to understand Google Apps. You need to understand how to make a copy. How you need to understand how to log into the system. You need to know how to, put your grades in. That's really the what do you need to know. As an administrator, you need to know how to handle your grade book. You need to know how to do discipline. You need to know how to, your office workers need to know how to run Excel and spreadsheets and Genesis and all these different things. When you're looking at what does a staff member need to know, that is every single person with a paycheck. There's something that they are responsible for. What do they need to know? So that way, when you create your learning roadmap, you now now you say, well, the staff member needs to know how to run Google Apps. How are we training them? Are we doing it as an online learning module? Are we doing it at new teacher orientation? Are we doing it through weekly newsletters? Are we doing it through, Monday meetings? Are we doing it through after school programs, lunch and learns? How are we actually breaking that stuff down? So that way your tech coach can look at that document and say, all right, we have a new staff member. Here's how we do things. And here's when we do things. And most importantly, here's why we do things.
Yeah, and I think, looking at it, you kind of, you said it. It's really connecting a lot of the dots, and you can go ahead and you can, I'm going to run this workshop and I'm going to run this random workshop. But as you really start to methodically map it out or put together this roadmap, you start to understand the reasons of why you're doing it and the various avenues you're building in for teachers to be able to, or staff, again, staff to be able to get the skills necessary. And it's great because what I like most about it, Jeff, too, is being able to evaluate what do we actually use in our district and how is it being used. And then you start what tools are teachers using, and as you start to talk to the teachers, wow, I didn't even know that tool was being used. Okay, great. Now myself as a tech coach, I need to learn that, or I need to find ways to offer more PD opportunities around that app that maybe so said teacher is using that others don't need. So it's a great way to also evaluate your district in a way, and see what really you need to kind of keep with. So Jeff, now we compile all this stuff, and we start designing the roadmap, and we talk a little bit about how long it takes. So let's kind of shoot forward in time here. What happens once the plan is approved?
Well, there's always that stage between I've done this work and the approval process, and that's that volleyball ping pong game where you say, all right, here, Mr. Administrator or Mrs. Administrator, this is what we envision. Here's all the data. Here's where we have with the curriculum. Here's where we want our teachers to be. Here's everything that the community has said, right? Because if you start the game by saying the community has declared through our strategic plan, this is what we want our classrooms to be, you can't go wrong with that, because that's a lot different than walking into your boss and saying, I think we need to. Right? So once you have that, then at least you have the conversation where they can go, all right, I like this, I don't like this can't happen. Or, hey, I like where this is. Maybe I can help you with, you start to have those kind of negotiation conversations before you actually get to the spot where you present it to the full administration board. And Nick, that I don't know if you've ever had a chance to present in front of your entire district admin, but that's a scary thing for a tech coach who's not really part of the district admin.
Yeah, and one of the nice things that just kind of bouncing off what you just mentioned, is we have a tech committee that we meet once a month, and that involves most of our administrative team. Our superintendent, our director of curriculum, our director of technology, our building principals. Those are they're all involved in the tech committee that we have, and it's a great place to be able to formulate some of these items, and a EdTech integration plan, or talk about things and present in front. So I have had that opportunity. But things like those are great groups to have involved in this, because all your buy-in is right there in one shot in one room. And those are all the people that you're going to need to kind of say, okay, yes, we adopt this, we are using this, and now you've got them to be able to say, okay, what modifications over the next years do we need to make as this process continues to move on?
Once you get past that, it really is downhill. But the next bump is to just put it together. Putting this
Right.
document together is long because it not only involves showing off things. When I put mine together, it had, dozens, I should say, of lesson plans and websites and concepts and what could this look like? I mean, we put the whole shebang together, really, when it came down to it. But the nice thing is, Nick, that once you have this, you now have this. This is a plan that says we believe in what a student needs to look like. This is how we're going to get it there. And we're going to get them there by teaching our teachers what we envision a classroom can look like. Here's who the person is that's going to be doing that. Here we go. And, hopefully at that point in time, we all hold hands and skip up the yellow brick road and have and everything is wonderful in the world, right, Nick?
Absolutely. At least we hope it should be. But Jeff, you know what I do want to kind of throw in there is, as we start talking about this, just you and I kind of batting this back and forth, is I'm going to bet that some districts and some teachers and some tech coaches or whoever's involved in this process, they have remnants of this. Thinking about the EdTech plan, they may have things where they've mapped out, okay, these are some of the apps that we're working with. These are some of the PD opportunities. They may not have it as in depth. But I also want them to know that you may have pieces to pull together to then say, okay, how do we take all of these different things and start to merge them into the ed tech? So I don't want them to think that they have to be starting from scratch.
No.
If I was thinking about this from the beginning, and I'm just thinking about, as you said it, I'm like, before I had this official, more mapped out roadmap for the EdTech integration plan, I had remnants. But once I really started mapping it out and making pieces connect and fit the dots, that's when I really started to have more of a methodical way about implementing my professional development. And then from there, it just became more of a process. Okay, how do I make it more engaging and other things that hopefully we're going to talk about over the course of the year in on this podcast, and gamification and all those things in PD. But you can then take the EdTech integration plan and make it, whatever you want.
If you have any questions about creating an EdTech plan, I got to tell you, the best place to find that is over at our Tech Coach Mastermind. We're going to be getting started up in just a few days. I believe we're going to get started up on January the 10th. Isn't that right, Nick?
Yep, January 10th. That's going to be our first meetup, and I'm looking forward to getting to know the new crew for our mastermind.
We've got some great tech coaches. We even have 3 tech coaches coming from the same school district, all coming to work on creating that EdTech integration plan. Nick, it's going to be a great time. Don't forget, you can go over to teachercast.net/mastermind. Use the promo code TC100. We are keeping that open until the midnight on December 31st. If you're listening to this show the day it drops, check it out. There's a lot of great stuff. And if you're catching this after the show, let us know. We still have our $50 coupon over at teachercast.net/mastermind. You can, of course, use the coupon code TC50 if you're checking this out after the fact. And, of course, we want to say thank you guys for joining us for a great series of Tech Coach podcasts. We've got a lot of fantastic topics coming up in January and February. And then, Nick, of course, you can see all of us in Florida at the end of January for FETC. Nick, I am looking forward to everything.
So am I. I think we got some great topics that we're going to be covering, so I'm looking forward to those. I'm always excited for our monthly Tech Coach roundtables. So it's always great if anyone kind of wants to join that and reach out and be a part of our Tech Coach roundtable. It's great to just bat around ideas and see what others are doing. But Jeff, Florida, I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. FETC. This will be my first official time attending, so I'm excited to take part in this one, and then hopefully the outlook to ISTE at the end of the year.
So if you're looking forward to some great podcasts on being an instructional technology coach, check us out every single Monday morning. We drop around 6 o'clock a.m. just that way you can have us for your drive to work. And of course, if you go over to teachercast.net, sign up for our Insiders program, you can of course be on our Tech Coach newsletter and get updated stuff. We're going to be dropping that every Tuesday. So Monday is our podcast, Tuesday is our Tech Coach mailing list. A lot of great stuff in 2019. Nick, I hope you are having a good time this holiday with your family. I know I certainly am. And we want to say out there to thank you guys to you for making TeacherCast your home for professional development. And on behalf of everybody here on the TeacherCast Educational Network, my name is Jeff Bradbury.
And I'm Nick Amaral.
Reminding you to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.